Elena Muslar, hi.
Hi.
It's so good to have you in this space.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, be with you.
Here, same here. For anybody who does not know you, who are you today?
Well, today I am sort of, I would say, butter pecan ice cream with a drizzle of hope,
Hmm.
uh, light, and perceptiveness.
Yum. This was a first. Is that your usual ice cream pick, or is this just today's pick of the day?
Both. Like,
Okay.
it's today's pick, but I always kind of throw people off because I don't eat chocolate or cake. And so I like really simple desserts. And when I think about how I like to show up for others is
Mhm.
just in a way that's really kind and soothing to however you choose to show up for yourself. So
Yeah.
for me, that's butter pecan today, but there's so much more
I
that's in
love it. Ugh, how warm and gooey that was. I just already you're like, here I am just like opening my heart in the way to just like be with the moment. It's just beautiful
store.
and wonderful, which is why you're in this space. Um, I would love if you're cool to talk about the way in which you do serve
Yeah.
truly on a
Yeah.
daily basis artists and with your heart and the work that you do.
Yes. So I operate in a few different buckets. I mean, I wouldn't be an artist if I
That
didn't.
part. Yeah.
Um, and those buckets really center around executive coaching, education, and arts executive administration.
Mhm.
And I get to do so many of those things sort of combined in my work now at the Entertainment Community Fund as the managing director of our career center.
Yeah. Yeah, which is how I have found you. Because for me, I hadn't really used the resources of the Entertainment Community Fund until the pandemic with health insurance. After my health insurance ran out, and I was like, what am I doing? Like so many folks who were like, I don't know where to turn. And a friend of mine was like, have you reached out to the Entertainment Community Fund? And I was like, am I able to? And they're like, that's the entire point of this organization. Yes. And Vincent, shout out, has been my person for years to help me find health insurance. And then I'm going to also shout out Lori Tishfield, who's currently the facilitator of the Creative Entrepreneur Project, who is a friend of mine who was on the podcast a couple seasons ago, who's incredible. If you have not listened to her episode, please do. And on the episode, she shouted out the Entertainment Community Fund because she too had taken the Creative Entrepreneur Project to help build her current business. And I remember that stuck with me. And I'm currently going through the Creative Entrepreneur Project at the Entertainment Community Fund, which I'm so grateful for. Obviously, I have some time to continue working through where I'm at with everything, it is such an unbelievable resource that I don't think most artists fully understand the extent of, let alone the avenues that they can have access to it from, depending on their need. And I would love to just talk to you about maybe just like overview, and then we can just hone in on the career center part because that is where you sit. But
Yeah.
just what exactly, for those who don't know, is the Entertainment Community Fund? How does it serve artists? And obviously, it has for years and many evolutions.
Mhm.
And now, what would you say would be its like main focus for the way in which it's programming?
Mhm. Beautiful question, and I'm so excited to answer it.
Yeah.
The Entertainment Community Fund is a national human services organization. We're a nonprofit, and we really focus on fostering stability and resiliency for folks who work professionally in the performing arts and entertainment industries. Our goal is to be a support mechanism, system, friend, community, it's in our name, over the course of your lifespan as a professional. So, like that, at any point when you feel like, hey, you know what? I don't want to feel alone anymore.
Mhm.
Like you could just come to us.
Yeah.
And our previous name was, which a lot of people may know us as, was the Actors Fund.
Mhm.
And we really wanted to emphasize who it is that we truly serve in the updating of our name to the Entertainment Community Fund,
Yeah.
putting that emphasis on community. And also the original name, which we've been around over 140 years, it came from sort of back in the day when you think, there's the stage and we're all merely players.
Yeah.
And the actor was someone who did everything, who was behind the scenes, who stage managed, who also played
Mhm.
Romeo and then also played Juliet in the next show.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it was already, it was known back then that actor meant all things.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we have so many more beautiful descriptors, titles, labels that help people understand what it truly means to build a life and career in the arts.
Yeah.
And so we have, we're nationwide. We have offices in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. And we really aim to serve everyone in film, theater, television, music, opera, radio, and dance,
Mhm.
with all kinds of different programs. Sometimes when you first meet what it is that we do, it can sometimes feel like, wow, there's so much.
Yeah.
I have no idea because a lot of people may only know us for one thing, that
Yes.
thing that they came to us for that one time that someone referred them to come to us for.
Yep. Right there.
Usually people stay in that one lane. Rarely do they see, oh, wait, there's actually 50 different things that if I choose to explore more, I can feel even more supported in a holistic way,
Yeah.
um, as an artist. And so those areas that folks can dive into within the fund are our social services, our emergency financial assistance, which is pretty popular. Most people know us for that. Um, we have access to helping people better understand their health care, and like have healthcare.
Mhm.
We have insurance counseling when it comes to figuring out healthcare. We have different housing initiatives
Mhm.
that, there are different locations that we actually have affordable housing for artists. And obviously that's extremely popular and
Yeah.
fills up very quickly. But we also, obviously, my neck of the woods, we have the career center. So we have things that both help you when you need a safety net, but we also have elements of things that are preventative for
Yeah.
you to come and engage with us. So it's not just coming to us when there's, only the sense of desperation or dire, constraints in your life. Come to us before that moment,
Yeah.
to us
Yeah.
when you just want to feel, like, you got people who got your back. And
Yeah.
the more you engage with our services, the more you'll be prepared for moments where there may feel like instability. And so that's kind of the overarching view.
Yeah, such a good overview because I think you are correct in that my entry point into it was through this one particular lane, and then it was like, wait, there are all these other options that I could potentially dabble in. I'd just love to chat quickly about how it literally works. Like if me as an artist in some capacity is like, "Oh my god, this sounds amazing." You go onto the website and then you operate through the different lanes of the thing. Do you take and I mean, I know the answer to this, but I'm just like is there a cost for these things? Like how do I show up and become involved when and if I'm ready?
Beautiful. So the first thing I will say is obviously go to entertainmentcommunity.org, and like you'll be able to see all the different resources that we have. And that's kind of just for overview purposes.
Yeah.
Then, if you're like, you know what, I want to take advantage of some of this stuff I'm seeing all over the website, then that's your moment to sign up for our portal. Right there at the upper right hand corner, you'll see an opportunity to be able to do that. And so just make your account on our portal, and that's where you'll be able to then register for all of our free workshops or events or things that, are available to you, or if you need to apply for financial assistance, a lot of our programs do have very specific criteria
Mhm.
and eligibility requirements. So you want to make sure that if you do feel like, okay, this is the moment when I need help in some way, give yourself space to realize that requesting help isn't like always like a quick fix,
Yeah.
and sometimes you have to prepare your materials and and be able to explain maybe what it is that you do, or how your work qualifies you for this particular opportunity, whether within our one of our programs we have some scholarships, and other programs there's the financial assistance, and other um, workshops or groups, it's have you done X to qualify you for coming into this thing, which is
Mhm.
why. Creative entrepreneurship project, whole application process.
The
Our teaching.
longest one I've truly ever filled out in my life, by the way. Truly. Truly so extensive. I was like, this is harder than getting into college. I was like, this is wild. It was very personal, but I
Yeah.
invested my time for it. But yes, it was like, okay, this one's really extensive. And I think self-selecting in that way.
Yes, and knowing that, like, in order to get free help,
In
which,
large
like,
quotations. Yeah.
yeah, all of our help is free, but it also comes from our community. The
Right.
people who pour into us, who donated during, COVID and the pandemic, and which is still in some
Mhm.
instances going on. Like, when the strikes happened, like, you all pour into us, and so that's how we're able to pour back into you. And it's also one of the things I really encourage people to think about, rather than maybe feeling frustrated if there's a long form or something intense that they are now having to reflect on in ways that maybe make them feel like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I should just be able to show up and get mine. It's like,
Yeah.
well, in reality, a lot of people will want to do that. And we also have to be mindful of our capacity to serve.
Yeah.
And when people put in that effort and that energy to share with us where they're coming from, that helps us help you better.
Yeah.
And it helps us frame our programming in a more intentional and thoughtful way. And it helps us frame our services and our offerings in ways that best help the people who can benefit from it the most.
Yeah.
And, with our financial assistance program, it's keyword emergency financial
Mhm.
assistance. Are you about to lose your apartment? That's when you go for
Yeah.
it. It's not like to use us as a crutch or to
Right.
feel dependent. We're really here when like ish hits the fan.
Mhm.
Um, but we're also here to help you before ish hits the fan. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing I really want to emphasize is be familiarized with all our services prior to that point, so you're aware of when it makes sense for you to interact with some of them,
Yeah.
like financial wellness, so
Yes.
that you don't have to then go to emergency financial assistance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Um, I'd love to just talk then a little bit before we get into like the actual stuff that you do about this idea though that I think so many of us artists have around I'd say it's the stigma around asking and or receiving help. It's
Mhm.
like, wow, I'm listening to this podcast and I kind of knew about the entertainment community fund or I didn't and now I know a little bit more. Now I'm curious about it and then perhaps there's like the overwhelm of like, oh my God, there's all these things. And then there's
Yeah.
the like internalizing of, oh, maybe I don't even deserve this, or there's somebody who needs it more, or am I taking
Mhm.
away from somebody else? Or if I show up and I do receive this, then how am I able to actually receive it? Like the stuff that we as artists, frankly, are taught, so many of us, and have to spend a lot of
Mhm.
time undoing so that
Yes,
we can receive and or pour into ourselves, which is then pouring into the community. Like it's a cyclical situation. But
indeed.
when somebody is perhaps feeling that overwhelm or that internal struggle to even take that leap of faith for oneself, of investing time, energy into oneself, like what are some of the things that maybe through your experience serving people when they're in crisis or pre-crisis or wanting to grow, quote unquote,
Mhm.
crisis, like what have you found to be some perhaps helpful ways of reframing the ick around the ask or the ick around the receiving of assistance?
Yeah. So I think one of the best words that I like to bring into conversation is sustainability.
Okay. Meaning for
And
you, what?
meaning within your career, how do you want to feel sustained in it? Do
Mhm.
you want that to mean that, you are diversifying your income streams in a way that better supports you for your longevity
Mhm.
in your career as an artist? Okay, then take financial wellness workshop and then, come to one of our career journey series so that you can also think through what that means to you and
Mhm.
define that for yourself so that it's not necessarily like just assistance.
Yeah.
It's creating a more sustainable lifestyle for yourself as an artist.
Mhm.
And that's where we get back to our mission, which is really around making sure that folks feel more stable in their careers and their lives and more resilient to be
Mhm.
able to ebb with the flow of things that are outside of our control. And
Yeah.
rather than getting sometimes like frustrated with what is outside of our control, it's how can I turn that frustration into motivation?
Mm.
Many
Mhm.
of the best business ideas or or even organizations come out of frustration, come
Yeah.
out of anger, come out of those real and raw feelings that people have. But our work is centered around helping you channel that and knowing that like asking and receiving help is not something to feel ashamed of. It's actually your right. And if
Mhm.
and I'm a person of color and I feel like we talk so much about rest as a reward.
Mhm.
I think sometimes the artist mentality, it's very go, go, go. It's like I gotta hustle and those are things that in my opinion, we deserve to outgrow.
Mhm.
What happens if as artists we find comfort in the ebb and flow of our careers?
Mm.
We require rest in order to surge forward when the timing makes sense for us
Mhm.
to get into the zone of when we want to deliver. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
it's so that's some of the ways I encourage folks to reframe around this because we wouldn't exist without you. There
Yeah.
would be no need for us if everyone was doing just fine.
Yeah.
And, and so we want to be able to help people and allow them the space to feel really good about what it means to show up for help. But we may call on you at another time when we need
Yeah.
you to be that example to show someone else that it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's mentored, everyone's supported.
Yeah.
Choose the moment for you when that needs to matter most.
I love that, and it's totally in alignment with here, us at Empowered Artist Collective. Like, truly, it's this whole entire when it was an incubator, now in the podcast, like, the tagline is to create a sustainable and thriving career in the arts. Like, to be able to
Exactly.
have all of these conversations with different people in the industry, to start thinking and expanding the way in which we, show up and the way in which we exist in these different artistic spaces, to get a plethora of experiences and, perspectives, to be able to just feel like you're expanding. So I'm feeling
Yes.
the synergy here completely. I'd love now
Yes.
then to veer into the Career Center and like the work that you
Yes.
do and the offerings that exist, which are plenty, and the way in which, artists can come to you in this career that we have chosen. That I'd say the only the only thing that is constant is the change all the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'd love to hear more about all of that.
Yeah. Well, first, I would say, you know, one of the biggest things to remember when coming to the Career Center is that we're never here to judge.
Mhm.
We're only here to support. We trust you as the expert in your creative career and discipline. And we're just here to help you continue expanding the horizons that you want to expand
Mhm.
within and for your career. So we understand elements of where you've been, but we don't understand everything and the
Yeah.
kitchen sink about your story and your journey. And so one of the things I encourage people to keep in mind is you get to access these services of support for free, and there's a grace and a mutual respect that is is required in order to get the most
Mm,
out of career counseling and our creative workforce development programming. And so whether you choose to go down one lane or the other or both, um, you know, coming in with understanding that this is a dialogue, but
mm,
at the end of the day, you are the CEO of you.
yep.
Your career counselor isn't, the person leading the workshop isn't. Our goal in the Career Center is to help people feel more empowered in their career than the moment they stepped foot in their first interaction with us.
Yeah.
That takes shape probably like 95% up here in your mind as an individual and 5% with us in terms of connecting you to resources or giving you a different framing on a
Mhm,
complementary career that might better support the lifestyle you feel like you actually deserve.
mhm.
um, there's all kinds of things. We're not the place where your like artistic dreams come to die either. We're the place that helps keep them alive.
Yeah.
So, but we're also not going to tell you who to go get headshots from. Like you
Right.
already have that in your world. We're here to help expand your world as a creative so that you feel like you have more tools in your toolkit and you're a well-rounded professional, period.
Yeah.
You can add artists to that. You can add filmmaker to that. You can add whatever you want to that at the back end. But really, we just want you to feel professional in whatever label that you choose, and whatever hat you may choose to wear, whether that's during the week you're one thing and on the weekends you're another thing,
Yeah.
or at night you're something else, in the morning you're a different thing.
Yeah.
So we want to help you navigate all of that so that you feel like you're in your thrive era, and that's something that you can sustain over time or come back when you need a pick me up and
Mhm.
you need a refresher or a reminder or a different way of framing something that's just been circling around in your head.
Yeah.
So we're here as thought partners. We're here as um, expansive supporters.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I would say our career center, we're kind of your biggest fan.
I love
And
it.
so if you want to feel good about yourself and what's on the horizon, that's when it actually is the best time to come to
Mhm.
us to
Yeah.
figure out your horizon.
Yeah. So let's do like an example. I love an example just so we can kind of track that. Let's say
Yes.
I am stuck. I actually
Yeah.
don't know what it is that I need. I just know that I've reached a point in my career that it's not moving in the direction I thought it would or that I
Yes.
want. I'm feeling maybe burned out. I'm feeling kind of like maybe burning the end at like both sides of what's the both ends of the candle? Is that a
Yeah.
thing?
Burning the candle at
Candle
both
both
ends.
ends. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm navigating this like feeling of not wanting to be a burden, or I don't know how to ask exactly for something because I don't even really know what it is. I just know that I need
Yeah.
something. What am I doing? Because it's like I
Okay.
can go to your portal and I can be like, I guess I'm taking, a career class, or I guess I can take a how to change my resume class, or I guess I could take a financial wellness class. But like if I'm still not even sure, like what am I doing?
So, actual first step, let me rewind. Once you're in the portal, if you want access to deeply interacting with the Career Center, the first thing you're actually going to go through is our Career Center orientation.
Okay.
And that is with one of our career counselors. So you'll get to see and hear even a deeper overview of like, what are the different types of offerings that we have? What excites you the most? Maybe where do you need a referral if you're feeling like something's really off? Like, and that's where we might be like, hey, you might want to talk to social services as well. Or
Mhm.
financial wellness is a different department. And it's like, if you're struggling in that area, then that's actually where you need to go. So you can come to our orientation to get sorted, to
Cool.
hear what's available to you, and you can also explore the portal.
Yeah.
But it really does help to come to the orientation because you get a good overview. And then from there, typically what I would say, if someone knows I'm working with the Career Center and I'm stuck and I don't know what to do next, I would really recommend going to a first workshop as one of the ones we have, which is called Career Journey. And it
Mhm.
literally starts with like, who am I? Like what, like what is meaningful work
Yeah.
mean to me? Maybe it's some resetting of some values. And then after that, you might get to a point where you're like, okay, now I know what I'm really interested in or where I want to expand deeper
Yeah.
into, or maybe I should go to the job search seminar because I know that that offering breaks down sort of multiple things for me in terms of how do I want to expand networking if I'm trying to be in dual fields
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
if you know that you're applying for something that's a little bit maybe different from what you, let's say you want to go into education and
Mhm.
you've been an actor your whole life and you're like, actually, I'm really interested in teaching.
Mhm.
Um, now, is that around higher education? Is that becoming a teaching artist? Like there's so many directions. Is that you starting your own business
Yeah.
and being an acting coach? I don't know. But all of these things we can help you explore and help you figure out what are the next steps you need to take for you to feel empowered on your knowledge journey,
Yeah.
because we never stop learning. And that's a big part of embracing the change as a constant and allowing yourself to find comfort in the change, because that's actually just evolution taking shape.
Yeah. Yeah. This is great. And I'm going to push back. Let's say this person now goes to this initial meeting and now they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Then what? Then they're like, okay, I mean, I feel like I could be doing all of these because maybe this will help me in this way, or this would help me in this way, or this would help me in this way. Like, how does one then can one set up a meeting with someone like yourself and be like, I don't even know? Or do you email? Like, what do you do with then the overwhelm? I guess what I'm really asking
Mhm.
is, as one begins to do what is arguably just like reflective self-worth work, of like reigniting and reminding oneself of one's worth. That's like what I mean by that, which is ultimately
Yeah.
what this work is. A lot comes up, and then at any given point, people's, inner saboteur person comes up and starts keeping them small, or,
Yeah.
so I guess I'm trying to get everyone at the point of resistance to like see that there is still an entry point.
Mhm.
So with the overwhelm one, where are we going?
Yeah, so I would say if you're overwhelmed, you can always email us. We
Cool.
have our two emails. If you're on the West Coast, Career Center West at entertainmentcommunity.org. If you're on the East Coast or Central Region, Career Center East at entertainmentcommunity.org, and just like say where you're at.
Yeah.
And our fantastic program coordinators can help you determine maybe this could be something you try out. Or if you're like, you know what, I need to talk to somebody and I don't fully understand what career counseling is, but like
Mhm.
maybe that's something I might need, then that they can help set you up for that. And usually we do kind of an initial conversation with you to sort of understand the barometer of where you're at,
Yeah.
uh, mentally, emotionally, and then we can recommend what might make sense for you to go through,
Yeah.
whether that's a one-on-one session that unpacks a little bit more, or we're like, actually, it is so clear that you should join our group called Fences, which allows people to really process in real time and have community with each other. And that might actually be your next best first step,
Yeah.
rather than just going straight into, oh my gosh, I need to learn networking. Or it might be like time and energy. And you're like, I'm just overwhelmed. So the workshop that might make most sense for you is to really step back and look
Yeah.
at like, where are you on your energy level
Yeah.
with this, and managing your time. And then maybe there's other things you want to explore. So we're not taking like a forceful approach, but we also want to make sure that you feel like you have someone in your corner
Yeah.
who is helping you figure things out along the way.
Yeah.
And also, we are not going to handhold you throughout that whole process,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we really want this to be you showing up for yourself, and we're there to make sure and hold you accountable to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I asked that question, because I think the thing that you're highlighting around the work that you all do specifically, there is a very specific kind of care
Yeah.
around an individual's process that separates y'all as an organization from others, in
Yeah.
that so many of you are artists or multi hyphenates in your own right, and understand what it means to be doing many things or trying many things, or just simply of the ethos around growth and change and adaptability. So
Mhm.
people are meeting people in spaces of vulnerability, of like, hey, the least you can do, or maybe it's the most in that moment, is just being honest and being like, I don't know, help. Or, hey, this is where I'm at, guide. Or like, don't know where to go, tell me. And then people get to meet each other transparently and honestly wherever they're at. Like, it just, for me, that's kind of the world that I crave to live in, frankly, that everybody is owning where they are, and
Yeah.
with grace, and
Yeah.
recognizing that the other person is also owning where they are with grace. And
Yeah.
depending on how each person's capacity is able to fit with one another, you guide them along to different spaces. And that is like a fruitful community experience. Like, truly, the ethos around the way in which y'all aim to function, which I imagine isn't always, totally, rainbows and butterflies every time, but like the
Yeah.
mission and goal around it is truly like the world that I want to be living in, where we are listening to one another.
Mhm.
We are not prejudging or assuming. We
Mhm.
recognize that people come from very different backgrounds, intersections, lived experiences, and we are
Yeah.
meeting them from where they are, not the
Exactly.
idea of where they are. And we get to then show up from where we are to meet them.
Exactly.
It's just, for me, like, the ethos around it is just, it's really, really beautiful and powerful. And I feel like the more people are aware that a space like this exists, and that it
Mhm.
isn't just for one, funnel that we usually find it for, there
Yeah.
really is a holistic understanding of, I actually do have people out there who want to support however they can. And they will
Yes.
guide me to the places if they are not that person. And
Yeah.
those people will then do the same for me, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
I just want to like affirm how
Mm.
cool it is that this exists, and that for us artists it is a free resource, because so many other people do allow it to continue by giving to it, and then it's this beautiful cycle. But there
Mhm.
are, it's hard to feel as an artist like you actually potentially have the support,
Yeah.
and that it
Because
feels.
narrative hasn't existed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're taught that we can't take up
Mhm.
that space for it, that
Mhm.
somehow it takes away from somebody else if you ask, or somehow, there isn't enough to go around, the scarcity of it all. And
Yes.
that to change that in your mind around, like, no, 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 there is this one space that's trying
There's
really
so
hard.
much unlearning that happens.
Yeah.
And I think our existence helps people shift their understanding of the value that they, you know, the validity of their career
Yeah.
and their choices, and that they are deserving
Yeah.
of support. And I mean, we can take this all the way back to how many of you had a parent who didn't understand
Yeah.
that you were going to go to art, or maybe pursue your art,
Yeah.
whether that was educationally, and they're like, we ain't gonna pay for that, versus you just said one day I'm moving to New York, or whatever
Yeah.
it might be. And so when people follow their dreams, oftentimes there's a negative side of that, where they had to lose something or give up something to be able to get. And so there's sometimes a hard edge, a wall that's been built up. And what I always say is that professional development is personal development,
Yeah.
just through the lens of your career. And so oftentimes, to your point, it is extremely vulnerable going getting to that headspace where you're thinking about the whole I need help.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, we want people to understand that needing help is not admitting weakness.
That part.
It is actually you standing in your strength
Mhm.
because it shows that you're self-aware enough to not live in Delulu land
That
about your
part.
circumstances, okay? So so that's where where we come in is to help you be in a healthy reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Just I'm gonna start using Delululand as, like, a title for things in my life. I don't think I tend to live arguably, I think I actually could use a dose of Delululand
Yeah,
in my
sometimes
like,
we need it to keep us
1,000%.
going. Yeah.
Yeah, like, part of me is, like, envious of the people who operate a little bit more in Delulu land because it feels like there's a level of what I perceive as abandonment and, ability to just, like, jump into the thing and just trust, and I'm working desperately hard to try to cultivate maybe perhaps a bit more trust in the fall and the support
Mhm.
system, but there
And
yeah, there's a little enviousness, but also, like, I think naming that the straddle for many, can be really intense, and to hold the dreams
yeah.
loosely and tightly simultaneously with the care and love and tenderness that we all deserve to do is I think an ongoing
Mhm.
journey for many of us through our artistic lives as these dreams continue to change and morph and grow.
Mhm.
Um, for you, though, as you are in this work, meeting artists all the time, what is your most fulfilling part of the job? Is it the tangible, like, I get to teach you certain kind of things, or is it the ability to really, again, meet people individually and then you never know what that journey is going to be and the creativity of working with so many different people? Like, what for you is fulfilling and why this job is something that speaks to your heart? Because it takes a certain kind of person, I will say. It does.
Well, thank you. I mean, I, so many things just fired off in my brain as I was listening to you, and I have to address like a couple things before I get to your question.
Please do.
When when you were talking about the dreams and being able to hold on to the dreams, it really like immediately in my mind came up the Langston Hughes poem,
Mhm.
uh, hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is like a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. And it's like, if it is good for you to hold on to the dream,
Mhm.
and it's okay for you to be curious.
That part.
And the curiosity is actually, in my opinion, the bird flying.
Hmm.
And I think as creatives, sometimes we're, we actually get trapped into the opposite of what creativity truly means.
Talk more. Please talk more about that.
Because we become almost married to that one thing, or even if it's two or three things that you're like, this is me and this is me, period. But it can sometimes close you off from learning how to leverage your creativity into ways that might be more meaningful for the lifestyle you actually complain about all the time that you wish you had, right?
Mhm.
So how do we both hold the dream but use the dream as fuel to prepare us to receive our blessings, right?
Mm.
um so I just needed to address that
No,
for a
go
moment.
off. That was like
Yeah.
a full sermon. I'm here for that. That was so good because it's true, and I
Yeah.
think there's so much joy and grief, and I can only
Mm.
speak on behalf of myself, but like wrapped into dreams where you have these beautiful things that guide you and help arguably dictate your life choices and the paths that you go down, and then as potential disappointments pop up and put roadblocks in that path
Yeah.
towards your dream, you're mourning this idea that you had that was this thing that propelled you, as you have to pick yourself back up again to reframe. And that there's a lot of this, I mean, arguably that's happening all the time simultaneously
Yes.
for any human being, and
Yeah.
certainly artists, of like the joy and the grief. And so it's so personal. It's
They
so
coexist. Those
completely.
things coexist, and it's also okay for them to coexist. You can be happy about these things in your life and sad about others. Child, I am.
Yeah.
Like we all have different things we're going through, and it's okay to be at whatever state you're in and give yourself that permission to say, you know, if I'm alive, I'm still growing.
Mhm.
And how do I want to grow today?
Yeah.
How, if you're committed to your growth as a singer, okay, what other things do you want to be committed to your growth within your life?
Yeah.
And that's why we exist. It's about a life in the arts. That
Yeah.
is literally our tagline, is supporting a life in the arts. And so I really challenge people to think about kind of like your life's pie
Mm.
and what are all the things that make up your life. Your career, hate to break it to you, that's only a slice. For a lot of creatives, it becomes their life. And
Yeah.
that's where it becomes so hyper personalized that it's almost like offensive if people, you know, say a comment that maybe is something that obviously you don't agree with. Okay, don't agree with it and move on.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
don't let that then dictate the direction that like everything you're doing is because of a fight
Yeah.
against society or whatever. What about if you didn't have to feel like you had to fight every day to survive? What if you gave yourself permission to figure out what does it take for you to thrive?
Mhm.
And that's actually the ownership that we really love to give our clients when they come into the space to connect and to feel less alone in that narrative that's actually been so hyped by societal pressures, by media, by educational systems.
Yeah.
All these things don't serve us. So to bring it back to your original question, like you can tell that this is what I'm passionate about
Yeah.
for a long time. Since I grew up in South Central Los Angeles and I chose to get my degree in theater and minor in dance and
Mhm.
have my little African American studies minor too. And then I was like, you know what? I'm an overachiever. So we're going to try for that education minor. And like I was doing all of this stuff all at once because I was trying to get that, make that money worth it.
1,000%.
Of this
1,000%.
these degrees. And so I always knew for me, there was never a plan B. There
Mm.
was never the luxury of a backup plan. And even, you know, there are certain framings even within how we talk about being a multi hyphenate or having a gig on the side or a sideline job. Like this is all just language we have to use in order to help people understand that what we're all building is a beautiful portfolio that makes up our career, makes
Yeah.
up the lifestyle we deserve to have. And that's something we really emphasize. It's one of the first things we talk about in another one of our workshops is the portfolio career. And so I get a lot of joy out of knowing that I am helping others reframe the narrative that society has placed into their brains. That's actually one they do not need to subscribe to.
Yeah.
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 And getting to see that, trickle through my team's efforts, like they're phenomenal. And it's really great to be in shared space and also see where community is built. That's the other thing. You can just come to a workshop or an event to see who else is in the room.
Mhm.
Like, you looking for a colleague? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you also have that too. So it's
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
How do you sustain yourself when one chooses to
Yeah.
be in space where they are often giving so much or sharing so much or holding space for others so much? How do you come back to yourself? How do you refill your cup? Where do you get your energy and revitalization from?
Yes, I love this question. So because of where I come from, like where my origin story was, and the dynamics of growing up in an environment that had similar to an artist had a lot of stereotypes associated with
Mm,
it. When people hear South Central LA, they got some own pictures and images in their head. And I think I grew up with this idea of like, I'm supposed to change that perspective. I
mm,
am really proud of where I come from. And I like to show that it doesn't look like one note. An
mhm,
artist doesn't look like one note. And so I think for me, there there's the difference between like making sure you have coping strategies and then there's prioritization of well-being.
that
And I think both of those are really important to have because you may have a day where somebody triggers the bloop out of you, and I think what do you have, what best practices do you have in store to say, okay, this was a triggering day.
Yeah.
I am going to look at my favorite well-being app and put on a meditation to transition me from that moment to the moment I deserve to have next.
Yeah.
Like that's something I literally do after a long day. I'm like, okay, we need to listen to Zen spa music,
Yeah.
and I will literally look it up and
Yeah.
find one that's right to me. I'm like, that's not the right Zen spa.
Yeah, yeah.
It's this. And then, and I'm like, if I don't got the spa money right now, I'm gonna create one, and I will go get me a little like fizzy shower, whatever thing,
Yeah.
and drop that in there, let it steam up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it smells like lavender now. And so I think about the senses, like,
Mm.
is it auditory? Is it taste? Do you
Mhm.
just need to go have get
Mhm.
yourself a treat that makes you feel really good? Or, and I think that also applies to learning styles too, which is something that for me, when working with clients or um, colleagues, it's important for me to understand how people give, receive, and process information.
Yeah.
And so if you hold tension in your body, for example, like I know when I have a long day and I work at a computer
Yeah.
all the time, but I grew up being like, I can dance and sing and all of these
Yeah.
fun things. And then now I sit all the time.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, okay, I gotta go take a class. Like I started tap class again because that's
Yes.
me. And it was, so joyful to be able to be in that space. And at another point in life, I joined a community choir where I didn't have to know how to sight read and like audition. It was
Yeah.
just us singing because we like singing.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I encourage people to have outlets that aren't tied to worth
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and allow, like, I purposely have been in both of those environments I just mentioned. I don't say what I do.
I love it.
And so it'll be like at the end of the class, literally, it was the last day of class, and someone said something, and my like career coach brain was like, "Let go, say this for them," and I said, "And by the way, you should," and I said it, and then I was like, "Oh, and I'm the managing director of the Career Center at the fund," and they were like, "What?"
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yeah, we contain multitudes, right?
Yeah.
But you get
Yeah.
to choose how much of your multitude and your energy do you want to take into space to space to space to space? Does it fully define you in every space? This is why I told y'all I was a butter pecan ice cream today.
Exactly.
Like, you get to
Exactly.
choose how you show up.
And that's why I ask that question. I'm not asking, "What do you do?" I'm not asking.
Yeah.
For me, and it's like, look what the conversation ends up evolving
Yeah.
towards as somebody shows up as they are, right? Like, for
Mhm.
me, as a facilitator, as a host in this capacity, and as an artist in the way in which I like to show up, and what like my little diatribe earlier around community and what I wish the world would be. It's just I'm really at the core belief system. I'm really trying very hard to meet people vulnerably and truthfully, with empathy. And I'm not
Mhm.
perfect, but like on the core, that is like really what I'm trying to do. And if I'm not
Yes.
listening to your choice of ice cream, and that's truly where you're starting from, then like how am I showing up with you? Like I'm just not, I'm forcing a conversation that I think we're never going to be fruitful if we're not listening, I think.
Yes, and
Like,
that's kind of also why I do things like that. Like,
yeah,
I I come into this role and it's like, wow, I get to work with all these people now, and
yeah,
and I love showing up in a way that allows people to say like, "Oh, that like, yeah, I can have this fancy title, but it's about, for me, how I get to connect with people, how I get to meet people, how I get to just be myself and show that like being down to earth is just as worthy of sort of exaltation as being at the top of the totem pole or
yeah,
the hierarchy that people are that that garners a lot of people's respect. I
yeah,
think if you can just be a human with
yeah,
someone, that also garners a whole nother type of respect that sometimes goes quite farther
I
and
would
deeper.
I would argue it does,
Yeah.
personally. I mean, this is a whole other conversation for just, like, the way in which, success and who is the arbiter of success and who gets to define success and what does success mean to you versus this person, and then we're all defining it according to this it's just
Yeah.
I have a lot of feelings around it.
And
Um
I love it. Like, and what you said earlier about being so like, your diatribe, I saw that as manifestation of the world you deserve to live in.
Thank you.
And the way you're vocalizing that, that's what makes the people around you, the stuff you consume, start to attract in ways that align with
Yeah.
what is meaningful for you to be a part of. We get to
Yeah.
curate our space.
Yeah.
Stuff can come in if we let it,
Yeah.
but it's also about what we choose to say, you know what, that's not for me,
Yeah.
and this is my zone.
Yeah.
So
It's the phrase, and I go back to this often, of you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time
yeah,
with versus
yeah,
the 5 people you love, like,
yeah,
frankly, I don't really get to spend as much time with the people I love, the way that I wish I could, but you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and it's like, if you are spending your time around some people that are sucking your energy dry, or you are not feeling it's reciprocated, or you are not able to fully show up as yourself and you're exhausted, whatever it is, like,
yeah,
barring the fact that sometimes we have to be in spaces that are harder, and hopefully it goes back to what you were saying of finding these ways to fulfill yourself after the fact that are built in to
yeah.
revive you and sustain you. But
Mhm.
for me to be a little bit on a mission of really trying very hard to, as much as I can, curate the
Mhm.
people and spaces that I then get to be around, these energies that will fill me, and then I get to go to sleep at night being like, yeah, that was a mostly energetically vibrant day and filling day.
Yes, I
That's
love that.
a very different way of existing than, like, wow. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are days when you're like,
Yeah.
this was so hard, or weeks or months
Mhm,
that you're like, this is sucking me dry. But
mhm.
then, yeah, coming back to, like, okay, when I have the option, how can I put myself in spaces where I get to feel seen and I get to make people feel seen?
Yeah,
And that is the world I'm really trying so hard to be a part of, and with the people that are also wanting to find
yeah,
that for themselves.
and it's like, where can you put yourself in spaces where you feel fueled,
Yeah.
rather than, like, judged or
Yeah.
drained. And one of the things I also have to mention is I just shared with you like my own personal practices, but the fund also has, meditate a mindfulness meditation group through our social services and different support groups for people with different identities that you're like, I want to be able to be with people who get it. So
Mhm.
we also have those spaces too if you're seeking that out and you don't want to go at it on your own.
I think you're so incredible as a human, and I think that the work that you're doing with the Entertainment Community Fund is really, really impactful and has helped countless artists and will continue to help countless artists, and I'm so grateful that you were able to share in this way, in this space, to help whoever is listening to this
Yeah,
conversation hopefully feel that for themselves.
yeah,
I really I've created this podcast as a resource so that others
yeah,
can really begin to expand the way that they can step into their own artistry and lives with
yes.
integrity and empowerment and sustainability. And I just feel such a kinship to the work that you do and the way that you show up. And so I'm so grateful for you, this conversation, and the work that you continue to do. So thank you so much for being here and showing up in this way.
You are so welcome. And I have to say, like, it's an honor to be able to do this work for
Yeah.
me. I feel very fortunate to be able to serve such a beautiful, dynamic community of people of all types who come with so many talents. And we love supporting people in their talents and exploring how transferable those talents are
Yeah.
that other people need to wake up and smell the coffee on. And
Yeah.
so it's a gift to be able to share this space with you, to share this with your community. And I know for my team, we all feel like it's a gift
Yeah.
for us to be able to serve this population specifically in the way that we do day in and day out. So we thank you for, showing up for us.
Thank you. I mean, this is what community really is if we're really boiling it down. So, my literal pleasure. For anybody who wants to learn more, who wants to work with you or reach out or has further questions, what within your boundaries is the best way for people to find you?
I'm going to just give a round of like soft applause for the what within your boundaries element of that
Yeah,
question.
people have
Um,
different ways, you know?
so, so there's a few different ways I would say. First things first, if you want to get in touch with the Career Center and interact with all our work, it's obvious. You go to our website, you sign up on the portal, you email the two addresses I just shared earlier.
Mhm.
If there's some specific reason that you're like, I really appreciated what you said, and you want to show sister girl some love, you can add me on LinkedIn. No one else has my name. So that's
Lucky
pretty
lucky you.
easy to find me on the internet. But please don't feel discouraged if I do not respond. That is the boundaries element where sometimes, in the work that I do, you can follow me on LinkedIn or whatever other platform you end up finding me on. And then it's like, oh, great, new friends. Like,
Mhm.
but I also have to be really mindful of my capacity so I get to show up for my team so
Yeah,
that they can show up for you. So those are some of the best ways to interact and engage.
I love it. Thank you again for joining us in this space, for lending and sharing from your heart, and, hopefully this is the beginning of more.
My pleasure. And obviously, follow us on all the social media handles. We're a life in the arts on Instagram. We
Awesome.
have LinkedIn. There's all the things, and we'll make sure all that's in the show notes, as they say.
Perfect. Exactly. No, but yes, as we say, for sure, all of that will be linked in the show notes. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.